Uh, so today in this session, we have Dr. Dinesh Balasubramanian, who is currently pursuing his postdoctoral fellowship in the area of battery thermal management for EV in the Mechanical Engineering Division, the Faculty of Engineering, uh, and the Center for Alternative Energy Research and Development, Khon Kaen University, Thailand. And also he's working as assistant professor in the Department of Mechanical Engineering, Mapkoshnik Engineering College, Shivkasi, and uh, since 2017. So he's basically a BA Mechanical Engineering from Anna University in Coimbatore, and ME in Automobile Engineering from MIT Chennai, and PhD in Mechanical Engineering again from MIT Anna University Chennai. His major areas are advanced diesel engine combustion, hybrid vehicle technology, battery thermal management system, electric vehicle, and phase change material. So he has published multiple SCI journals, including in fuel energy conversion management, and few articles in environmental science and pollution research, and several articles in under cleaner production. Also, he has published papers in applied thermal engineering, renewable energy, atmospheric pollution research, Journal of Energy Institute, waste biomass and valorization, ecotoxicity and environmental safety, and a few more technical papers. Currently, he is having a H index of 21 and I-10 index of 32 with a total citation of 1,600. He is supervising 4 PhDs in the stream of electric vehicles and also 3 MTech scholars under him. He has an Indian utility patent granted to his name in the stream of low-cost heterogeneous catalyst. He has also applied for 2 patents in the area of IC engine and waste heat recovery system. He completed 1 sponsored research from Tamil Nadu State Council for Science and Technology, Chennai. I welcome you, Dr. Dinesh sir, for joining us today for this session. Now, please take the platform.
Thank you very much for the brief introduction, sir. It gives me immense pleasure, and I would like to thank the management, principal head of the institution, and the organizer for giving me such an interesting opportunity to explore my perspective on the battery thermal management system to this electric vehicle FDP sponsored by ATAL program. So, without further delay, let me just move into the presentation. So, the overall presentation agenda has been presented over here, where we will be starting with a brief introduction about EV, and I will just make you to walk through the recent research progress in battery thermal management, and after that we'll have a brief conclusion by the end of session. In most often cases, I would like to start the presentation with and recent news, so thereby you can just try to understand the importance of this particular topic at this particular point of time. So India is poised to be one of the largest electric mobility market in the world in coming decade. It is not only because of the highest population in India. Indian government is making a transition from the pure ICE into EV at this particular point of time and making use of renewable sources of energy rather relying on fossil fuel based energy. And the government push pollution and reduce reliance on import dependency of the fossil fuel. And we are very much aware about the price increase of fossil fuel as of now, where petrol and diesel is close to 100, and the bridge gap between petrol and diesel is not too far higher. It stays between nearly 6 to 8 rupees at a bar difference. So we are actually in the transition era from internal combustion engine into electrical era as of now. And related with the recent news, which is much more interesting as of now, is Zomato along with Flipkart has joined hand and make a very big statement to the entire nation that they will just transport or they will just convert all their door-to-door delivery vehicles into pure EV by the year of 2030. So by the year of 2030, they have made a very big statement that they will convert all their door-to-door delivery vehicles into pure EV And Flipkart have also joined hand along with this particular commitment to convert all their door-to-door delivery vehicles into pure EV. Along with that, sooner or later, Swiggy and other online platform might join hand in near future. And when you're just talking about EV, we should also focus on the about the EV charging facility. So Tata Power has installed nearly 400 EV charging station as of now, and which is targeting for another 700 station by the end of December. So one thing that is common on all these recent news is that the term EV. So EV is one of the key terms that need to be addressed to the entire faculty community to have a very big awareness about the current progress in EV. So thereby the information can be transferred to the young champ to have a better idea about the EV and its future at this particular point of time. So I would like to thank the organizer for picking this particular interesting topic and considering it as a faculty development program, which is sponsored by Atal. So talking about the EV road to adoption in India, each and every state have their own EV adoption. So whatever the EV adoption scheme is, Delhi won't get suited with Tamil Nadu or Karnataka or Kerala. So each and every state have their own regional impact. So a generalized EV scheme cannot be adapted for the entire nation. So in reliance with this, government have taken an initiative to create their own EV policy based upon their regional impact. So state policies have outlined a good mix of demand of incentives for promoting EV adoption based upon their regionals. So whatever the regional impact in Delhi is not similar as like in Tamil Nadu. So for an best example, so in Delhi, the charging station is planned for every 3 kilometers, whereas in Tamil Nadu, the charging station is planned for every 25 kilometers. So each and every 25 kilometers, they have been planned to install a charging station, but whereas it is planned to install charging station for every 3 kilometers in Delhi. So Delhi is the national capital, which is having a huge impact on the air pollution. So the policy is much more targeted to have a better penetration of EV, particularly in the national capital than in the other states. So that is the reason why the government have taken an initiative to create the state policies for EV adoption based upon their particular locality impact. So talking about the EV policy in Delhi, electric two-wheelers, e-rickshaw and goods carriers would receive an incentive of around 30K, whereas electric cars would range an incentive of around 10K to 150K, which has been increased nearly 10 to 20% as of now. And government also plans to make public charging facilities accessible for every 3 kilometers in Delhi, which is variable according to the regional impact in each and every state. And talking about the electric vehicle population in India, in 2014, the electric vehicle population in India was not too high. But it has been projected that by 2030, it would reach its peak, which is agreeing well with whatever the news that we have seen earlier that talks about the Zomato and the Flipkart pledges to convert all their door-to-door delivery into EV. So by 2030, India is going to have a huge numbers of EV in their road, which is to be projected at this particular point of time. And talking about the automotive market share starting from 2010 to 2050, in early 2010s only the entire automotive market share was dominated only by pure internal combustion engine. Either it would be pure petrol or diesel. But as the year keep on increasing, the penetration of electric vehicle have initiated its mark to a greater percentage. So the penetration of EV, which includes both hybrid vehicle and pure EV. So that has been mentioned over here as the electrical era. So it is agreeing well with that. But after 2020, the penetration of hybrid vehicle would started to make its impact at and maximum percentage. So agreeing well with whatever the statistical data presented over above, Yamaha Fasino 125 is coming up with its hybrid vehicle variant as of now. So it was the news there in air by July 2021, which is not too far from today's date. So after 2021, the penetration of hybrid vehicle start to make its mark. But start to make its mark in a greater impact. So this is an pictorial representation of the Fesino vehicle, which will have both internal combustion engine and battery plus motor combination, which would able to deliver combinedly to the end-wheel demand. So even though the idea of getting transition from internal combustion engine to hybrid vehicle is only to make the internal combustion engine alive for next 20 to 30 years. So talking about the hybrid vehicle, in case of hybrid vehicle, based upon the end wheel demand, whatever the power that can be delivered from your internal combustion engine would be at the max of 51%, 50 or above. And whatever the power that can be delivered from your battery plus motor combination is restricted to 49%. Is restricted to 49%. That means only the internal combustion engine can become your primary energy, whereas your battery plus motor combination would become the secondary energy. So if EV base power deliverable capability is able to deliver power higher than 50%, then it would be get converted into an EV based vehicle. That is, it would be an the primary energy would be battery plus motor combination, and the secondary energy would be internal combustion engine and the fuel tank. So the objective of hybrid vehicle technology is to make internal combustion engine alive for next 20 to 30 years. So the internal combustion engine would be acting as a primary energy in terms of your hybrid vehicle. So based upon this EV percentage varying from 0 to 49% only, the term DOH has been comes into picture, where DOH talks about degree of hybridization. So you might have heard terms about micro hybrid, mild hybrid, full hybrid. So in case of micro hybrid, the degree of hybridization varies from 0 to 10%, whereas in case of mild hybrid, it varies from 20 to 30, and for full, it varies from 30 to 50. So the maximum capability that an electric motor plus battery combination would be able to deliver power in your hybrid vehicle is restricted to 49.99%, making your internal combustion engine as the primary energy source. It is also agreeing well with this particular statistical data, and only the near future, you will be able to see either hybrid vehicle or plug-in hybrid vehicle, and the role of internal combustion engine vehicle would slowly start to get fade out. And it is also agreeing well with the Maruti Ciaz vehicle, which is coming up with a mild hybrid variant. And you can also even give an example about n number of hybrid vehicles as of now in the market. So slowly all the vehicles are getting transitioned from pure internal combustion engine into hybrid vehicle as of now. And sooner or later, the most selling vehicle in India is Maruti Suzuki Dzire. Sooner or later, they might also get switch over from pure ICE into hybrid vehicle mode. So the future will only be hybrid vehicle, plug-in hybrid vehicle, which will have an additional energy source and able to charge it externally, a fuel cell based vehicle, and pure EV. So this is what is the current electric vehicle population as of now in India. And talking about history of electric cars, so this is one of the realistic statement that is really hard to accept. Nothing is under the new horizon. So electric cars has been around for more than 100 years, which is really hard to digest. So it is not that electric car has made its boom as of now in 2020 or later. So electric cars are there even at the time scale where we have identified or where we have invented our internal combustion engine. Agreeing well with it, it was in 1832. It was in 1832. The first crude electric vehicle was developed. And it was in 1893. It was in 1893. The first gasoline power SI engine was get commercialized. So if you just see the time scale, both have started their origin in the same time scale of 18th century. So both internal combustion engine and EV have started their origin at the same time scale, but somehow only the internal combustion engine was there alive for next 100 plus years. So we'll try to understand what is the impact of it in the upcoming slide. But even though at that particular time scale, or that is particularly on 1899 or in the late 18th century or the early 19th century, electric cars gained popularity. Even though the internal combustion engine was commercialized, it was in 1899 the electric vehicle gains popularity, particularly among the society humans. So when you just think about the electric vehicle at that particular point of time, it doesn't emit any tailpipe emission, and the operation was much more easier comparative with the internal combustion engine at that particular point of time. So you need to crank the engine from the frontal side, and you need to, and whatever the emission that emit from your internal combustion engine was enormously high, because we doesn't have very much stringent emission norms in the 18th century when we have started to invent our internal combustion engine. So that is the reason why the society movements highly targeted the electric vehicle, rather focusing on pure internal combustion engine at that particular point of time. And the next hard truth is that it was in 1901 Edison takes on electric vehicle with batteries. So later on, the electric vehicle have started to make its role with battery as an external energy source, but the weight of the battery was enormously high, and the charging time was also too higher. So all put together, later the electric vehicle faced a huge decline. But it was in 1901 the electric vehicle has been initiated its phase with an external energy sources and battery, and it was in 1901 the first hybrid electric vehicle was introduced. So it was in first 1901 the first hybrid electric car was introduced, and as of now in 2021 July 22, we are just introducing hybrid two-wheelers to the human mankind. So if you just see the time scale between 1901 to 2021, it was only the pure internal combustion engine was ruling the entire automotive field as a solo king. So thereby the decline of electric vehicle have started to initiate. It was in the time scale between 1920 to 1935, where the electric vehicle slowly start to get a decline in its overall automotive market share. So one main reason is because of the weight of the battery. So the weight of the battery was enormously high. It was merely 300 to 500 kg at that particular point of time for making a short travel, and the time for charging was also too high. And the facility was charging was also once again a very big question. So all put together suppress the sales of electric vehicle to a greater percentage, and it slowly accelerate the internal combustion engine sales to reach its peak. So whenever you have a petrol pump, you can just slowly move your vehicle over there, just fill your tank and make a speed walk away. So all put together, it eagerly attracted all the human mankind to switch over from uh, electric vehicle to electric vehicle to internal combustion engine in the time scale of early 19th century. And once again, the electric vehicle, once again, in the mid of 19th century, due to the gas price soar, because at that particular time scale, the dependency of the crude oil was highly focused on one particular nation, and the nation has the rights to have a price fluctuation at that particular point of time. So it creates a very big threat to depend on one particular nation for the crude oil alone. So people have slowly started to think about making use of alternative fuel as an energy which is able to sustainably provide produce from their own nation. So rather depending on one particular nation for the internal combustion engine propulsion. So each and every automotive manufacturers has slowly started to think about making use of alternative based energy to work to focus on their self-sustainable energy production in their own nation. So this created a very big threat in the internal combustion engine market share, and people was also talking about making use of electrical energy for the vehicle propulsion. And it was in 1971. It was in 1971 over the boom the electric vehicle. So this particular statement created a very big boom in the automotive makers' mind, where NASA Lunar rover runs on electricity, helping the rise of the profile of electric vehicles, particularly in 1970. So in 1970, the term electric vehicle was there in air and news, as NASA have made use of this electric vehicle to propel in the lunar. So all put together, the EV have been once again there in the picture because of this particular statement. With aligned with this, what actually happens is in the next few years, the General Motor have come up with a prototype based electric car. So the General Motors have come up with a prototype-based electric car in the year of 1973, which was displayed in the first symposium on low pollution power system in the year 1973. So after this particular statement, the automotive manufacturers, the leading automotive manufacturers have started to explore making use of alternative fuel as an energy, such as the different oils, or thinking about making use of electrical energy, electrical power as an key energy for the transport propulsion. So it was in 1997, the first mass-produced hybrid vehicle was introduced. So think about the uh, time scale of invention. It was in 1901, the invention of hybrid vehicle took place, and it was in only 20K, the mass production four-wheeler was introduced. And it was in 2021, the hybrid two-wheeler was introduced. So if you just see the time scale after the invention in 1901, it took merely 100 plus years for its commercialization. So for all these 100 plus years, only the internal combustion engine was making a key role in the entire automotive market share. So that is the reason why, based upon the statistical data, as said earlier, after 2021, most of an internal combustion engine would be slowly get converted into the hybrid vehicle mode. Either it can be plug-in or pure HEV. And here comes the hero of our electric vehicle, which is actually an startup in the earlier stage. It was in 2006, the Silicon Valley-based startup Texan Electric Cars. So Tesla Motors, a Silicon Valley-based startup, announced they will just produce a luxury electric sports car ranging to a distance of 200 plus miles. So which was an unachievable target at that particular time, and it created a very big threat to entire automotive manufacturers or entire automotive monopoly manufacturers based upon their own nation to slowly accelerate or to slowly switch over from their internal combustion engine research and development team to electric vehicle development team. So the automotive makers take to accelerate their work on their own EV. So along with Tesla, the leading manufacturers have slowly started to work on their own EV to have a sustainable future in the near future at that particular point of time. And if you just try to collect the statistical data about the electric vehicle sales sold worldwide, you can just see it is not that only the Tesla is making a maximal percentage. The overall electric vehicle share is percentage is shared between 10 to 15% by all leading manufacturers such as Hyundai, Renault, even Hyundai Renault is also making a key percentage in the overall electric vehicle market share. It means that along with Tesla, both the leading manufacturers have started to work on their own EV to have a sustainable electric vehicle future as of now. So this is about the electric vehicle sales as of now in 2021. So hereby we'll just give an end to electric vehicle introduction and its history. I believe you are having a clear view about the history of EV as of now. And talking about the definition of electric vehicle, so any vehicle propelled by an electric drivetrain draining or taking power from a rechargeable battery or from a portable refillable electrical energy source, or rather a fuel cell, solar cell, which is manufactured for the use of public road, can be coined as electric vehicle. So first thing that strike your mind when you are just talking about the electric vehicle is that it doesn't emit any tailpipe emission. Yes, electric vehicle doesn't emit any tailpipe emission, but you should be very keen about this particular statement. Reduced air pollution such as CO2, SOx, NOx, PM, and these are the key emissions which is actually affecting our nation by a maximum percentage. All these emission can be suppressed to a greater percentage. Yes, I agree well with it. So the nation is actually affected by emission accumulation. The nation is actually affected by a maximum percentage by emission accumulation. So the term emission accumulation says that assume yourself stuck in a traffic with merely 100 cars surrounded close to you. If all these 100 cars are pure internal combustion engine, at the time of idle condition, close to an highly populated area, what actually happens is all these 100 emission vehicles would emit enormous amount of emission, and these emitted particles would be keep on circulating in this particular locality to create accumulation of emission, and which makes a major threat over there at that particular human mankind, for their particular human mankind. But in the same scenario, think over when you are just making use of either a hybrid vehicle or pure EV in the same case study. So you are having the same 100 vehicles, which is either pure hybrid vehicle or EV. So when you are just stuck over there in a traffic, or when you are just in an idle condition, what actually happens is you will have an option to get switch over from internal combustion engine mode to EV. So thereby your internal combustion engine power would get completely shut down, and only your battery will be assisting you to keep your AC and your music system switch on. So thereby the emissions that is emitted from all these 100 vehicles would be cut down, and that would drastically reduce the air pollution at this particular locality. So the reason why Delhi is facing a huge air pollution impact is because Delhi is located exactly at the center of our nation, and whatever the outside burning happens in the nearby locality are allowed to get circulated and getting accumulated in the center of our nation. So thereby the accumulation of emission is higher, especially in Delhi. So that is the reason why the outdoor burning is highly restricted all around the Delhi, and moreover people are asked to switch over from the pure internal combustion engine to CNG based engine. So that would emit very minimal amount of emission. So all put together, Delhi is in an urgent threat to convert all their internal combustion engine to either HEV or pure EV. And talking about the same scenario that your vehicle won't emit emission, coming back to the same statement, yes, I agree well with that, your vehicle won't emission. So think about the same scenario in the time scale of 2030. So in 2030, it has been reported that merely all the vehicles in your roadside would be drastically converted from pure internal combustion engine to EV. So if you just try to convert all their internal combustion engine into EV, the demand for electricity would be very much higher. So as to handle a very huge demand for electricity, we should rely more on the thermal power plants. So relying more on thermal power plants would demand the power plant to run for excess time with excess fuel. So this fuel is nothing but once again the fossil fuels. So this in thermal power plant would emit excess amount of emission to handle the very huge electricity demand. So there would be no tailpipe emission only from the user end. And when you just see and in the same case in terms of a life cycle analysis, and you will just see that the emission would be transferred from your vehicle to the power plant, power producing unit. So your power plant would need to produce excess amount of electricity by intaking excess amount of fuel. So that will emit excess amount of emission. And I'm also very much eager to make a very huge statement that as we are just going to face a huge demand in 2030, or in a government would be asking us to install rooftop solar station or rooftop solar panel based energy storage system and each and every household sooner or later with an higher incentives, because by 2030, based upon the statistical data, if the electric vehicle is going to rule the entire automotive two-wheel market share, it means that the electricity demand would reach its peak. If the electricity demand is going to reach its peak, what actually happens is the government would start to find other possible ways to generate electricity. So it would be the first thing that strike the government mind is to effectively use the solar energy that is available. So government would give an higher incentives to install solar panels on the rooftop and make each and every household as and self-sustained electricity producing unit. So you will have an option to generate electricity and use the same electricity effectively and give back the remaining electricity to the grid, and thereby to the electricity board with an elements of charge. So this is going to be the near future when you are going to convert all your internal combustion engine into EV as of now. And talking about the current topic, we are not focused on the introduction of EV or current scenario of EV. So the present presentation is focused on battery thermal management system in EV. So with Reliance, with the topic that we are going to discuss, I have given you very interesting news. So thereby I can just pull this audience much more into the current presentation. So as till the previous slide, I have been discussing about one particular term that electric vehicle penetration have slowly reaches its peak. So electric vehicle penetration have make a very big mark in the entire automotive market share. But whatever the statement that I have presented over here is completely controversy to whatever I have said till now, and making whatever the statement I have till now is really completely contradict to whatever the statement present over here. So battery fire put BMW and Ford to back foot just as the electric vehicle take off. So till previously, I have been discussing about electric vehicle have slowly take off, but even leading manufacturers such as BMW and Ford has take a back foot. So the sale of their electric vehicle have slowly faced a drop because of one particular issue, that is the battery fire. Because of one particular issue, that is battery fire. It is not only the BMW and the Ford, and this is the pictorial representation of Hyundai electric vehicle Kona. So as said earlier, it is not that only the Tesla is making EV, even leading manufacturers are also working on their EV, and it is also having a very good market share percentage. Among that, Hyundai electric vehicle Kona is also having a very good market share. And this Hyundai electric vehicle Kona has been globally recalled. So Hyundai considered a global recall of electric vehicle Kona after a battery fire report issue. So after a battery fire report issue, Hyundai has globally called back all its electric vehicle Kona because of one particular issue, that is battery fire. So Hyundai will recall nearly 77,000 Kona EV vehicles worldwide. The affected vehicles are produced between September 2017 and March 2020. So one thing that is common in this particular news is nothing but fire. So what is this battery fire and how this battery fire can be controlled is what we are going to see in the upcoming slide. And vehicles going on flame aren't new in this electrical era. So they just coined this particular era as electrical era. So as we are making a transition from internal combustion engine to EV, so they just coined this particular era as electrical era. And they have also for past 3 years in US, they have nearly quantified of around 171,500 fire accidents has been took place. And you can also see the catastrophic failure of a battery fire issue after and complete explosion. So this is a Hyundai electric vehicle Kona after the battery fire issue. So you can just see the complete electric vehicle has been faced a very big impact after this battery fire issue. So our current presentation focuses on this battery fire and the possible ways to control it. And talking about the battery population as of now, the current presentation is only on lithium-ion batteries. And the basic working of lithium-ion batteries and the chemistry behind the heat generation anyhow in the upcoming slides. And talking about the lithium-ion demand, as in the earlier 2015, the demand for lithium is not too higher. But as the year keep on increasing, the demand would reach its peak. Particularly in 2030, the demand would be very much higher because the transition of ICE into EVs allowed to make its peak only by 2030. And among that, the percentage of lithium-ion demand would be very much higher, particularly in the passenger EVs. Particularly for passenger EVs, the demand for lithium would be very much higher. If the demand for lithium is too higher, what actually happens is we need to seek the best resource for the lithium. So talking about the countries with the large lithium reserves worldwide based upon the statistical data collected in 2019, Chile, Australia, and Argentina particular ranking list. So Chile, Australia, and Argentina leads this particular ranking list with a maximum reserve percentage of lithium. Talking about India, yes, India is also having a minimal percentage of lithium reserves. That it has been estimated that India is having around 1,400 tons of lithium, Karnataka, which is a news published in Hindu. And it is also stated that for the financial year 2017, India has imported lithium batteries for a price of around 384 million, which has been raised to 1.2 billion for the year of 2019. And think about the time scale of 2030. So it would be much more higher for the time scale of 2030. So this is what is the battery population scenario as of now in India. And before moving into the battery fire issue, we need to clearly understand the basic working of a lithium ion. Thereby, you can easily try to grab the relation for the battery fire issue. So talking about lithium-ion batteries, we need to initially thank Alexander Volta for his invention of battery, which he have initially experimented with the zinc and the silver. So he stated that it works on the basic principle of electrochemical potential, that when you are able to have an unstable atom with you, and when you are able to touch an electron from this unstable material, and when you are able to provide two different pathways for this electron and then ion, so this flow of electron would create this flow of electron through copper coil would create electricity. So this is the basic working of any battery. So only the base material is allowed to get varied. So among the electrochemical series, lithium is having the higher percentage value. So thereby, the reason why it is highly preferred based on the various batteries as of now. So lithium atom would have 3 electrons with one more electron in its outermost orbit. So if we are having an option to detach this electron from it and converting the lithium into lithium ion, so this flow of electron through a copper coil would create electricity. So this lithium would get very for lead. So the main objective of different batteries is that you need to detach an electron from it and ask the electron to allow it to pass through a copper coil. So this flow of electron in the copper coil would create electricity. So as lithium is highly unstable, so when you just place it in an air or water, what actually happens is it would immediately start to react. So the term immediately start to react means it would immediately lose an electron. So that is the reason why it would be most often packed inside and metal oxide. So here I have just presented you the cobalt oxide. So the purple color is nothing but the lithium, and the cobalt oxide is acting as a barrier in between it. So to make your lithium itself as a stable element, it would be packed inside any metal oxide. So the maximum price of your battery is dominantly shared between this lithium and metal oxide. So for a clear information, nearly 30 to 60% of your electric vehicle price is dealt with only your battery. And in that, the maximum share is handled by both your lithium and metal oxide. So our only objective is that you need to detach the lithium from this particular combination. So this particular combination talks about the metal oxide. So if you're able to separate the lithium atom from this combination, and this detached lithium would immediately start to react. That means it would be immediately get converted into lithium ion and an electron. That would immediately get converted into lithium ion and electron. And if you're able to provide two different pathways for the same, one is for the pathway for the flow of lithium in the horizontal direction, and one is the pathway for the flow of electron. So this flow of electron through a copper coil would create electricity. So this is the basic working of lithium ion battery. So this could be very much understandable with and small uh, presentation. So where assume there is a sunset and you are just moved away with your mischievous student for an roadside camp. So lithium is the mischievous student and cobalt oxide is the faculty. So once the sun is set after the camp time, what we will be doing is the cobalt oxide will moving back to its guest house. So that is the faculty, and the lithium will be asked to move to its dormitory. So close to that, you are having a barrier or a wall. So outside this wall, you are having a swimming pool area. So once the faculty is moved away from this mischievous student, what you'll be trying to do is you'll be started to get converted into lithium and electron. For an small assumption, consider this electron is bit fat for an assumption, and lithium is so thin. And in between the wall, you are having a small gap. In between the wall, you are having a small gap. So the lithium would be able to pierce through this wall and get back to the swimming pool area, whereas the electron need to take the longest path to get back to the swimming pool area. So if you're able to understand this idea very clearly, then it would be not too hard for you to understand the basic working of a lithium-ion battery. So the lithium cobalt is the base material combination, where the lithium is the mischievous student and the cobalt is the faculty. So when the day is set and you have been asked to settle down in your restroom, so what actually in your guest house, what actually happens is When the cobalt is allowed to get detached, it would be converted into lithium and an electron, and the lithium would be able to pierce through the wall and come and settle down over here in the swimming pool area. And the electron need to take the longest path to come and settle over here. So it should be related with the basic working. So the wall is nothing but the electrolyte, and the swimming pool is nothing but the graphite. Now moving back to the basic working. So this is the lithium plus metal oxide. So when you're just connecting the battery through this copper plate, the plate would get positively charged. What actually happens is it would be able to pull the lithium from this metal oxide composition. So once the lithium is get detached, you will get electron and lithium as a positive ion. This electron will stick over to the copper plate and it will take the longest path to reach the swimming pool area, that is the graphite. And the lithium would pierce through the electrolyte and come and settle down in this graphite area. Make a clear note that graphite doesn't take part in the electrochemical reaction. It is just like a cushion area where the lithium and the electron can come and stay down and get back to their original portion. And when you just connect load to it, the reverse would happen to come and settle down to their original portion. So this is the basic working of a lithium-ion battery. And at that particular point of time, an accidental invention was introduced. So for the first time, when lithium is making a move from the cathodic side to anode side, what actually happens is it just react with the electrolyte and form a layer on the outer side of the electrolyte. So for the first time, when lithium is get detached from the metal oxide composition and making a walk through the electrolyte and to the graphite area, it reacts with the electrolyte and form a solid electrolyte layer on the outer side of the electrolyte. So this solid electrolyte layer acts as an electron barrier to restrict the movements of electron in the horizontal direction. So this is one of the greatest accident invention that happened at that particular point of time. And you might have also be aware that you would be asked to charge your mobile phone or laptop to 100% for the first time. So the main reason that you have been asked to charge your mobile phone for 100% for the first time is that you have been asked to push all your uh, lithium from one particular direction to other particular direction to form a solid electrolyte layer. So this solid electrolyte layer would be acting as a very big barrier for the movement of electrons in the horizontal direction. So our only key objective is that we should never allow the electron to move in the horizontal direction, and we should always push the electrons to make the longest paths to travel to the next locality. So that is what is the only key objective when you are just talking about the basic working of your lithium-ion battery. And what are the basic issues related with the lithium-ion battery? So rechargeable lithium-ion batteries regard the most suitable energy storage based upon the electrochemical series. We are very much able to understand that among the electrochemical series, lithium-ion battery is having the higher voltage limit. So that is the reason why it is highly preferred. And lithium-ion batteries performance is closely related with temperature. Yes, that is one of the greatest disadvantage that you need to focus on the lithium-ion batteries. So lithium-ion batteries performance is closely related with temperature. Based upon the temperature, you will get a different output condition for your lithium-ion batteries. And when it exceeds the temperature limit of 60 degree of above, so that is the safety limit of your lithium-ion battery, the thermal runaway phenomenon comes into picture. So thermal runaway is that leads to a destructive consequence such as rapid temperature rise, gas generation, or even battery explosion. So whatever the issues addressed before might be any one of these particular reasons that we are going to see in the upcoming slides. And to reduce the potential risk of thermal runaway, numerous safety devices has been incorporated inside your lithium-ion batteries. And extensive research is also allowed to get progress in this particular direction. So safety vents, thermal fuse, automatic reset device, shutdown separator, chemical shuttles, coatings, heat retardant electrodes. So you need to see this in a different perspective. That is, your lithium-ion battery is able to generate heat, and first objective is that you need to reduce the heat generation in your lithium ion batteries. So whatever the devices that I have addressed over here is used to reduce the heat generation based upon internal approach. So based upon internal approach, the heat generation would itself get suppressed when you just work on the key materials that is used for your batteries. And next one is increase the heat dissipation. So once the heat is generated, after that, what you need to do is you need to dissipate the heat to the atmosphere and pull down the temperature to its better optimum operating point. So the overall heat generation in a battery would be classified into two. One is an internal approach and second one is an external approach. So internal approach talks about the materials that is dominantly used for your battery. And in along with that, you will have different safety devices also. So one safety device is the safety vent. So each and every battery would have a small opening on the head surface, because as the electrochemical reaction progress, there is a huge possibility for the formation of gas. So if this vent is allowed to get closed, it would lead to an excess internal pressure, and even it might itself create a possibility for battery explosion. So the better example is, assume a pressure cooker in your home. So the pressure cooker, what we'll be doing is you will be pouring water with the food inside the pressure cooker and you will be heating it. So as you are trying to convert the water into vapor, the volume occupied would be higher. So above the head of your cooker, you will have a nozzle, and above that you will be trying to place a weight over here. So as the volume get increased, it will be creating pressure on the head surface of your uh, pressure cooker. And once this pressure exceeds and moves the weight above, you will get the whistle sound. So if there is not an opening present over here, what actually happens is the cooker might get busted. So the accidents because of the cooker accidents might be because of the blockage in the nozzle. So if there is a blockage in a nozzle, what will happen is the
Sir, are you there? I think there is some technical issue. Might be the network problem as well.
this is a separator which is coated with a heat retardant material, and it is allowed to get ignited, and they are trying to monitor the temperature at which the phase change is allowed to get happen from converting from the solid to liquid or vapor phase. So what is the maximum temperature that this heat retardant separator would be able to handle? So all put together would be acting as the safety device for your lithium-ion batteries. And as described earlier, getting back to this key statement, the performance of your lithium-ion battery is closely related with the temperature. So this would be the key statement for this particular next slide. So battery is a key operating tool to drive your EV. So the performance of EV is actually depend upon the capacity of your battery, operating period, discharge rate, and power density. So one of the biggest issue with the battery is generates heat during charge and discharge period. So this should be very much clearly understood. So that way we can just have a clear idea about the upcoming slides. So the best example is nothing but consider your mobile phone. Most of our ourselves are having only Android-based mobile phones or iPhone-based mobile phones, and all put together make use of only lithium-ion batteries. So once the day is set, what we'll be trying to do is when the state of charge is very lower or less than 20%, you will try to charge your mobile phone, and when you just try to charge it in the connector, and as the SOC raise from 20 to 100, and if you just touch the outer case of your battery, you can just feel the sensation of heat. You can just feel the sensation of heat. So when the detachment of lithium and cobalt happens and the flow of electrons is allowed to carry it over from one side to other side, it creates excess amount of heat. So that is well agreeable with whatever the scenario that I have explained over here. So that is the reason why even Apple is suggesting you to remove the phone case. So remove the phone case and asking you to charge your battery, because at the time of charging it creates excess amount of heat, and if you are placing a mobile case on the outer side of in your mobile phone, what actually happens is it will be acting as an insulator. So this insulator won't allow the heat dissipation. So because once the heat is generated, our objective is that we need to increase the heat dissipation. If you just place an insulator closer to it, what actually it will happen is it will be holding the heat within the system itself. So all put together, the cell temperature would once again keep on rise. If the cell temperature rise, the battery degradation or battery aging would get accelerated. So that is the reason why even leading manufacturers, as like Apple, is suggesting you to remove the phone case and asking you to charge your battery, and realizing fact that if you are able to charge your battery from tomorrow, I can just assure that your battery life will slowly get increased, whatever you have done till the previous day. And talking about the discharge period, yes, based upon the discharge period also, the battery temperature would rise to its peak. Assume you are having the same mobile with 100% of SOC, and you are just installing a new FIFA game or some other an high-end game for 1.5 GB, and when you're just starting to play it, you will be trying to drain the maximum amount of battery charge from 100 to 20% at a very faster rate. For the whole night, you will be playing it, and if you can just see it, when you just start to play the game for the whole night, your battery will drain from 100 to 20% within 3 to 4 hours. But for the previous day, without playing a game, you can just see that your battery was alive for one complete day. So you can just feel the difference between 4 hours and one complete day. So based upon the power you are going to drain from your battery, would would create a major impact in the SOC, and thereby you will face a very big heat generation in your battery. So that should also be very much agreeable with whatever the explanation that I have given over here. But talking about the battery thermal management system, the rated operating temperature of an EV varies from minus 40 degrees Celsius to 60 degrees Celsius. So you can just try to operate your battery between the temperature range of minus 40 to 60, but the desired temperature limit lies between 15 to 35. Even though you are able to operate your battery between minus 40 to 60, for getting an optimal output, you need to operate maximum between this particular temperature limit of 15 to 35. So here comes the term battery thermal management system. So what is the role of battery thermal management system is that if the temperature goes beyond 35, because we have tried to identify what is the temperature limit, the optimal temperature limit, that is 15 to 35. If the temperature goes beyond 35 degrees Celsius, or if the temperature falls below 15 degrees Celsius, we need to introduce either a heating system or cooling system. If the temperature falls below 15 degrees Celsius, if the temperature falls below 15 degrees Celsius, we need to introduce a heating system to raise the temperature from 15 to, let us consider it as a sub-zero, minus 2 to 15 degrees Celsius by introducing a heating system. And meanwhile, if the temperature rises above 35 degrees Celsius, we need to introduce a cooling system to pull down the temperature from 60 to 35. So now what you are doing is you are thermally managing your battery to operate in between this particular temperature limit. So the thermal manage to maintain the temperature within the operating range talks about the term battery thermal management system. And you should also be very much aware that the safety limit of your battery is of 60 to 65 degrees Celsius. At any point of time, you should not exceed the safety limit of your battery. If you are exceeding your safety limit of your battery, then you are just opening the pathway for your thermal runaway phenomena. So among the different batteries presented here, we will be most often focusing on lithium ion or lithium polymer batteries for the upcoming slide. And talking about the effect of temperature on the battery performance, let us start with the low temperature condition. So assume yourself your vehicle is there in the European condition where the atmospheric temperature is moved to a sub-zero condition of minus 5 degrees Celsius. So based upon the thermodynamic condition, if it is minus 5 degrees Celsius, your battery pack would like closer to it. So it might even get closer to minus 2 degrees Celsius or minus 1 degree Celsius. And we are very much clear that our optimum temperature limit is 15 to 35. So for getting the optimal temperature limit, what they have tried to do is they have just introduced an air plus blower system along with the heater. So when the air along with the blower is allowed to pass through a heater and allowed to get pierced on the outer side of the battery pack temperature would slowly start to rise from minus 15 to 15 degrees Celsius. After attaining the 15 degrees Celsius, they will be trying to operate your battery for a better output range. So this is a pictorial representation of a series hybrid drivetrain where you are having an internal combustion engine. From there, it is allowed to get connected with a generator, and thereby the electrical energy is allowed to get processed through the power electronics and allowed to pass through the traction motor, and from the traction motor is allowed to connect it to the end wheels. So this is a series hybrid drivetrain combination. In the series hybrid for the battery pack, they have been trying to introduce an heater with a blower system to raise the temperature, particularly for the low temperature condition. And when you just make a plot between the temperature versus capacity, and we are very much aware that the optimal temperature limit lies between 15 to 35. 15 to 35 would give you the maximum capacity of your lithium ion battery. But as the temperature falls below, what actually happens is the capacity would slowly start to fade out to a greater percentage. And when you just talk about the internal resistance, it would be very much nominal between the temperature range of 15 to 35. It would be much lower in terms of milliohms. But when you're just raising the temperature well below the sub-zero condition, rather comparing this would be 5 times higher, assuming as 100 milliohms, which would be 5 times higher of reaching around 500 milliohms when you're just trying to operate your charge or discharge your battery at a sub-zero condition of minus 22. So all put together, when you just try to operate your battery at low temperature condition, you will face capacity fade, and internal resistance would be higher when you are just dealing with it. And another important issue is that the lithium plating. So due to high anode polarization at the low temperature condition, the metallic lithium would be deposited on the surface of the anode. So what actually result is that it will result the cyclic impact of your lithium ion batteries. So battery would reach its end of life after even 90 to 140 cycles. So normally it will range to one cycle of 2000 cycles for a normal lithium ion battery, but you are trying to charge your battery at the temperature limit of minus 20 degrees Celsius, you will reach your end of life in merely 90 to 140 cycles. So which is significantly shorter, where a comparative study has been conducted to assure that for a normal cycle, the end of life would reach for a battery is placed at and 40 degrees Celsius for its better operation. So for this particular scenario also, you can just consider your iPhone as an example. So in your iPhone, they will have a data that you should be able to operate your mobile phone or battery between the high temperature limit of 60 degrees Celsius and the low temperature limit of minus 20 to 40 degrees Celsius. But even though in this particular case also, the optimum temperature limit is 15 to 35. If you are able to operate in this particular temperature zone, then you are having an higher possibility for better charging and discharging cycles, even at low temperature condition. I hope now you are having a brief idea about the impact of low temperature condition in your lithium ion battery. And similarly, talking about the high temperature condition, in terms of high temperature condition, you can just branch it out into 3 major parts. One is the cyclic aging, and second one is the thermal conductivity. So this high temperature condition is branched out as the cyclic aging and calendar aging. So the cyclic aging talks about the charging and discharging profile. So whatever we have seen in the nearest slide also talks about the cyclic aging. So cyclic aging is where the battery is allowed to get cycle based upon its charging and discharge cycle. So based upon recent literature, it has been stated that at 60 degrees Celsius, the capacity of the battery is dropped to 80% and 35% for its 70th and 140th cycle. So after 70 cycles, the battery state of health has dropped from 100 to 80% when you're just trying to operate your battery at the temperature limit of 60 degrees Celsius or above. Because we are very much aware that the safety limit of a lithium-ion battery is 60 degrees Celsius. And when you're just trying to operate at 60 degrees Celsius or even further, your battery percentage or state of health has been stepped down from 100% to 35% for your 140th cycle, compared to the capacity loss of around 4% in the 140 cycles. So which is very much which is making a very much difference based upon the cyclic aging of your both high temperature and low temperature condition. So that is the reason why you have been always asked to remove your panel case and charge your battery to increase the life cycle or the cyclic aging of your battery. And talking about the calendar aging, so it defines about the performance loss when lithium-ion batteries are stored without use for a prolonged time scale. So here in x-axis, you can just see the variation of month, and here based upon the typical charging cycle. So another important fact is that this is for simplified CC and CV. So whenever the CV percentage is allowed to get increase, it would create excess heat and it would slowly degrade the battery life also. So based upon the CV, the charging profile topology, when the charging profile topology get varied, the heat generation would get varied, and to vary the, if the heat generation is varied or increased, it would create excess pressure on your battery, creating and accelerating aging at any point of time. So this particular data talks about the calendar aging. When you're just placing your battery at a temperature range of 25 degrees Celsius, the degradation of your battery is not too high. But when you're just able to place your battery at a 45 degrees Celsius, the degradation of your battery would be enormously high. So all put together, you need to most often case maintain your battery temperature limit 15 to 35. So what would actually happen when we exceed the temperature limit of 65 degrees Celsius? So that what talks about the thermal runaway condition. So once it exceeds the temperature range of 65 degrees Celsius, between the temperature range of 85 to 120, the solid electrolyte layer would get decomposed. I believe you are aware about what is solid electrolyte layer. So for the first time, when the lithium is allowed to pass through the electrolyte and come and settle down in the graphite area, it forms a barrier on the outer side of the electrolyte. So this would be acting as a barrier for the movement of electron in the horizontal direction. So once the temperature limit reaches 85 or above, this solid electrolyte layer would get decomposed. So once this solid electrolyte gets decomposed, you are giving an option for the electron to either move in the shortest distance or longest distance. So if you are giving an electron an option to move either in short or longer distance, what actually happens is a electron is too smart. So it will always prefer the shortest distance. So it might result in short circuiting and it might result in a catastrophic failure. So after 120 degrees Celsius, what actually happens is the graphite anode reacts with the electrolyte. So graphite anode doesn't take part in the reaction at the low temperature condition, but as the temperature get increased, this graphite anode would react with the electrolyte, and this would seriously pull down the mass of your electrolyte. So if the mass of your electrolyte is pulled down, that means the barrier between the anode and cathode is pulled down. So the possibility for electron moving in the horizontal direction would get opened up. So all this thermal runaway condition or high temperature condition is where in each and every high temperature part, you are just opening the pathway for the electron to move in the horizontal direction. And at 130, the separator would get melt. At 140, your electrode volatilization would happen, and at 150, the cathode decomposition would happen. So the cathode decomposition is that the lithium is the mischievous student and cobalt is the faculty. At 150 degrees Celsius, if the faculty is too heat or if the faculty is too tense, what he will be trying to do is without any proper intimation, he will just try to move away from the lithium. If he just move away from the lithium without any proper intimation, immediately he will start his mischievous act. So it will get converted into lithium and an electron. Then it would create a much more complex situation where the electron can move in the any direction. So that way you are just opening the pathway for the movement of electron in the horizontal direction once you reach the temperature limit of 150 degrees Celsius. And after you reach the temperature limit of 200 degrees Celsius, the electrolyte would get decomposed. So once the electrolyte is getting decomposed, that is, you are just breaking the barrier wall between the anode and cathode. What actually happens is the short circuiting might happen. So even that might be in one particular cell. So it might even create a catastrophic failure for your entire battery module, and the overall vehicle might face a huge disaster. So this battery performance is highly related with the temperature condition, and this temperature should be effectively monitored at any point of time. I believe now you are having a clear idea about the basics of lithium-ion battery and the heat generation principle and what is battery thermal management system. And in the next slide, we'll be focusing on the cooling system. As India is highly concentrated on high temperature condition, as of now, the upcoming slides talks about the temperature limit exceeding 35 degrees Celsius. So once the temperature limit exceeds 35 degrees Celsius, or assume yourself as 40 or 45 degrees Celsius, what you need to do is you need to introduce a cooling system to this particular case. So this cooling system is broadly classified into active cooling and passive cooling. It is broadly classified into active cooling and passive cooling. Active cooling make use of external energy source to cool the existing system, whereas passive cooling doesn't need of any external source to cool your existing system. So both liquid and air cooling falls under the category of the active cooling, talking about the forced air cooling and forced liquid cooling, whereas PCM falls under the category of the active cooling, the passive cooling. What is this phase change material? So this phase change material is one of interesting material which is having significantly a large value of phase change enthalpy. Example, the latent heat of fusion for melting and solidification has the capability to store the large amount of thermal energy in small form factor. So assume yourself you are having a beaker of water and you have been asked to place a thermometer into it. So you are just measuring the temperature. Initially, the temperature is initially 0 degrees Celsius, and you have been asked to heat this beaker. So what actually happens is the temperature will slowly start to rise from 0 to 100 degrees Celsius, and it will reach its boiling point. It will reach its boiling point. After reach its boiling point, if you just see through the beaker, you can just still see certain water molecules. So it doesn't mean that you have not reached the boiling point. That is the point at which your liquid would be get converted into vapor. But after that, what you need to do is you need to constantly maintain at 100 degrees Celsius for a time scale. You need to constantly maintain at 100 degrees Celsius for a time scale. This constant temperature line talks about the latent heat of fusion or latent heat of solidification. So this transition from liquid to vapor takes a time scale with a constant temperature zone. So this one such material is what highly interested for our battery thermal management system, which is an passive cooling system. I believe now you are having a clear idea. If not, this particular math will give you a much more better understanding. So assume you are having a beaker of water at 0 degrees Celsius, and assume the temperature is raised from 0 degrees Celsius to 100 degrees Celsius liquid. So to calculate the area under this curve, it will give you the energy that is actually required to raise the temperature from water from 0 degrees Celsius to 100 degrees Celsius. If you just try to plot the area under this particular curve, you can just see what is the area present over here. And at this particular point, your water is at 100 degrees Celsius liquid, and this is your 100 degrees Celsius vapor. And when you just try to plot the area under this particular curve, it is enormously high. So the realistic fact is that you need more amount of energy to convert your water from one phase to other phase, rather converting your water from room temperature to its boiling point. So it doesn't mean that you need excess amount of heat energy to raise your water from 0 degrees Celsius to 100 degrees Celsius, that is boiling point. So even much more energy is required to convert your liquid 100 degrees Celsius liquid to vapor. So that's what this particular energy versus temperature plot of your water explains. So this could be very much understandable when you're just dealing with numbers. So the same case study has been considered. So assume you are having a beaker which is filled with water. So how much amount of heat is needed to raise the temperature of 1 kg of water from 0 degrees Celsius to 100 degrees Celsius? You're having a beaker of water which is filled with 1 kg of water, and you're asked to place a thermometer into it. So this thermometer is able to measure the temperature. Initially it is 0 degrees Celsius, and you have been asked to heat this particular system. And once it reaches 100 degrees Celsius, what is the amount of heat that is required to raise the water from 0 degrees Celsius to 100 degrees Celsius is what have been asked to calculate. And that 100 degrees Celsius is only attaining the boiling point of your water. So even once you attain the 100 degrees Celsius and see the beaker, you can just still see a few traces of water present in it. So if you just try to calculate it in terms of number, the amount of heat required is 418.6 into 10 power 3 joules. So this is the case one. After attaining 100 degrees Celsius or reaching the boiling point of the liquid, you have been asked to convert this liquid into vapor. That is, you have been asked to empty the beaker. You've been asked to empty the beaker completely. So what is the amount of heat required to empty the beaker completely? Talks about this particular question. So determine the amount of heat absorbed by 1 kg of water to change the phase from liquid to vapor. At 100 degrees Celsius, it would be in liquid. and you've been asked to empty the beaker, that is, you have convert all the water molecules into vapor. So for this particular case, the amount of heat required is 2256 into 10 power 3 joule. So it is merely 5 times higher than whatever the temperature that the heat that has been required to raise the water from 0 to degree Celsius to 100 degree Celsius of liquid to 100 degree Celsius of liquid to 100 degree Celsius of vapor. So this particular interesting numbers is what much more eager to make use of phase change material as an effective heat absorbing material in your lithium ion batteries. I believe now you have a clear idea about what is phase change material, and constrained with the time, I'll just give you one brief example to have a very big clear idea about the phase change material. So one interesting phase change material is that organic PCM can be paraffin or non-paraffin and form or involve fatty acid, alcohol esters, and the glycols. So organic PCM is nothing but the candle in your house. They are rather stable, safe, and have high latent heat of fusion, and also available to operate at a large temperature range, which makes them compatible with most construction material also. And these are list of various organic PCM present as of now. And one greater disadvantage in this organic PCM is that PCM are flammable, because when you just try to ignite the candle, it is allowed to get ignited, and it is having low thermal conductivity. So the term low thermal conductivity means you can just even hold the candle closer to the flame. You can even hold the candle closer to the flame, so it won't conduct the heat effectively to your hand. So that what talks about the term low thermal conductivity. So the thermal conductivity of your wax is very minimal. So for a small assumption, that is assume once the day is down and once the moon is raised at 10 o'clock, what actually happens is there is a complete power shutdown in your house. So what you'll be trying to do is you'll be trying to ignite an high quality candle, and you have ignited it, and you are just waking in the midway of very early morning at 4 o'clock, and you just see still the candle is alive with a half-baked condition like this. So this is one such interesting phase change material. What that initially your candle is in solid phase. Initially your candle is in solid phase. After igniting it, it would be get converted into liquid. You can just see the liquid formation close to the flame core. After getting converted into liquid, based upon the constant heat addition, it would be get converted into vapor, and the overall size of the candle would get suppressed, and you will reach this particular point. So for all these transition, it takes enormous amount of time. So that is from night 10 o'clock to morning 4 o'clock. But the realistic fact is that the boiling point of candle is only 42 degrees Celsius. When you are able to provide 42 degrees Celsius of, to the candle, it would allow to get boil. So it would allow to get reach its melting point. So your wax would start to melt. But the transition time of melting point to getting converted into liquid, the paraffin wax takes excess amount of time. So such interesting material is effectively used in your battery thermal management system. Here I have given you whatever the pictorial representation talks about the phase conversion of your liquid wax. So at T is equal to 0, your candle wax is in liquid form. And at T is equal to 30, it has get converted into solid. It doesn't mean that you have not reached its freezing point. You have not reached its point at which it is getting converted into solid, but it takes merely 90 minutes to completely get converted into solid. In vice versa case, the same candle study has been presented over here. At T is equal to 0, you are allowed to start heating the candle. Even at T is equal to 10, you can just see the formation of liquid closer to the heat generation point. So here you can just see the formation of liquid closer to the heat generation point. It doesn't mean that you have not reached its melting point. You have reached its melting point, but it takes enormous amount of time to get converted from solid to liquid. So after that, at T is 20 and T is equal to 40. So it takes nearly 40 minutes to completely convert the top layer of your solid into liquid. So that is the reason why your candle is alive for the entire night when you are just igniting it for a emergency power shutdown. I believe now you are able to understand the organic PCM with brief case. Hello, sir. Can you able to hear me?
Yes, yes, sir.
Oh, okay. Sorry for the interruption.
No problems.
Oh, okay. Let me just discuss about another interesting case for the better exam, so you can just have a brief idea in a better way. So next interesting material is the inorganic PCM. So inorganic PCM talks about the hydrated salts and the metallic foams. So inorganic PCM by the name composed of inorganic molecules, which is typically an hydrated salt and metallic phase change materials. So inorganic materials have attractive characteristics. Not only the purpose of wide melting range, they are thermally safe. They are having high latent heat than compared with the organic PCM. So we're talking about the disadvantage is that the stability of the material would degrade based upon the thermal cycling. So thermal cycling talks about heating and cooling it. So based upon this, the material would lead face a degradation in its material properties, and it has an option to get corrosion formation as it is exposed to the oxygen between the PCM and the container. So these talks about the inorganic PCM. So here I'm here to present one interesting study. So thereby you can just clearly understand about whatever we have discussed till this particular point. So study of high-powered lithium-ion batteries with porous metallic foam saturated with phase change material. So here I have considered a paraffin wax, which is nothing but the candle wax, which is a paraffin RT44HC employed with organic PCM, and efficient cooling technique with the encapsulator of PCM with copper metal foam. So this is the copper metal foam, which would be more often looking like this. So which would be more often looking like this. So it will be like a sponge in structure with a space region in between it. So it would be like a metallic foam like structure. So here I have considered a copper metallic foam. And for this particular case study, I have considered 9 prismatic cells. 9 prismatic cells. Each of them are placed inside the acrylic box. Each of them is placed inside the acrylic box, which is having a distance of 5 to 7 mm gap, which is placed inside the acrylic box with a distance of 5 to 7 mm gap. And in this particular case, a thermocouple is fixed for the cell number 5 and cell number 9. So it is coupled with a thermocouple, and this thermocouple is connected with the DAQ to give an reading with respect to T versus T. So T in terms of seconds and T in terms of degree Celsius. So it will give you the plot between the time versus temperature based upon the different condition that we are going to operate. So here I have considered an acrylic box. In case 1, in between the 9 cells, only air is used as a cooling medium. And in case 2, we have just melted the paraffin wax and poured it in between these prismatic cells, and the PCM is used as a cooling medium. In case 2, the PCM is used as a cooling medium, and in case 3, the wax, the melted, we are having the melted wax, copper mesh is allowed to dip inside the melted wax, and that is placed in between the prismatic cells. So this is case 3. So let me just put it back once again. So this particular study talks about the lithium-ion batteries, which is prismatic in type. There are a total number of 9 prismatic cells, which is placed between a distance of 5 to 7 mm gap. And in case 1, only air is used as a cooling medium. And in case 2, wax is used as a cooling medium. And in case 3, wax with metallic foam is used as a cooling medium. So moving into the first case study, where cooling using air as a convection. What we are trying to do is we are making a plot between time versus temperature. So initially the room temperature is of 24 degrees Celsius, and you have been asked to charge your battery from 20% of SOC to 100% of XOC for a time duration of 0 to 100 minutes. So for 0 to 100 minutes, when you just try to make a plot between time versus temperature, the temperature is raised from 24 degrees Celsius to 42 degrees Celsius. That is very much understandable, as the lithium has to get detached from the cobalt oxide, and there should be a flow of electrons from one particular direction or other particular direction. So this would result in and heat dissipation. So for a constant or a typical CC and CV profile, I have not moved into the part of fast charging. So as of now, for a typical CC and CV profile, it results in a temperature rise of from 24 degrees Celsius to 42 degrees Celsius. But this 42 degrees is not too harmful, because we are very much aware that The desired temperature limit is 15 to 35, and the safety limit ranges from 60 to 65 degrees Celsius for your lithium-ion battery. And after that, I have tried to keep the battery idle. That is, I have considered this particular zone as cooling for next 100 minutes. That is for 100 to 200, where the temperature is once again allowed to get fall to the initial room temperature condition of 24 degrees Celsius. After 24 degrees Celsius, where my SOC is of 100%, and I am just draining the percentage of 100 into 20 within next 50 minutes. So here comes the picture of the discharge rate of 1C, 2C, 3C, and 0.1C. So based upon different discharge rate, you can just conduct this particular study. So based upon the different discharge rate, I am trying to monitor the time versus temperature plot for the cell number 5 and cell number 9. So cell number 5 will result in a temperature limit of around 57 degrees Celsius, and cell number 5 result in a temperature limit of around 68 degrees Celsius. So here we are exceeding the safety limit of your lithium-ion battery condition. So what we need to do is we need to introduce a cooling system to it. After that, once again, you are trying to cool it, but at this particular point of time, you are exceeding the safety limit of your lithium-ion battery. So it might lead to a thermal runaway condition or any catastrophic failure condition. So you should always try to pull down the temperature between the temperature limit of 15 to 35. So for that, what we have tried to do is we have introduced to pour the PCM into this particular model. So when you're just trying to pour to PCM in between this particular model, we are very much aware that the melting point of paraffin is around 42 degrees Celsius. So once again, the same charging, cooling, discharging, and cooling profile is allowed to carry it out. So when you just introduce the PCM, considering the previous condition, the temperature has even further stepped down to 32 degrees Celsius as of now. And after that, in the case of your discharge, after attaining 42 degrees Celsius, there is a huge heat absorption when you just try to introduce the PCM in between this particular model. So that is the reason why the temperature has even stepped down to 53 degrees Celsius comparative to 68 degrees Celsius in the previous case. I believe now you are able to understand the role of waste in material in the battery thermal management system in an effective way. And this is the pictorial representation for various discharge rate, and this will give you a much more interesting idea. So the black color talks about the air is used as an cooling medium, and the red color talks about the pure PCM, and the blue color talks about the PCM with the metallic foam. So till the point of 42 degrees Celsius, there is a melting point of your paraffin wax. So till the point of your 42 degrees Celsius, all three looks in a similar profile. So at this particular zone, your PCM will be in solid form. After attaining 42 degrees Celsius, the zone of melting would allow to get initiated. So in this zone of melting only, the heat absorption would be much more higher. So only at this particular zone, the slope of your temperature profile is allowed to get drastically varied, and where the temperature absorption is much more higher, focusing on cell number 5 alone, which can be further enhanced when you're just dealing with the copper with metallic foam, because there would be much more heat dissipation when you're just dealing with the copper metallic foam, where the heat can be effectively dissipated to the atmosphere. And after a time scale of 15 minutes, your wax would be get converted into liquid. So this zone is what highly interested when you are just dealing with the pure PCM with the metallic foam. And now I'll give you a comparative study of all three cases when we are making a comparative statement between time versus temperature limit and using air as a cooling medium. For cell number 5, the temperature is of 68 degrees Celsius when air is used as a cooling medium. And when you just try to introduce the PCM in between the cells, the temperature is raised to 53 degrees Celsius in this particular case. And when you are just introducing foam with PCM, the temperature has stepped down to even further of 48 degrees Celsius. So you can just see the temperature difference between 48 degrees Celsius to 68 degrees Celsius to 48 degrees Celsius just by introducing the PCM and the foam in between this particular structure. So this is how you can effectively treat or increase the heat dissipation rate just by introducing and passive cooling material in between the prismatic cells. So I believe now you are having a clear vision about incorporation of phase change material into the battery thermal management system. And the current research progress that is allowed to carry it out is that extensive research is running on the cylindrical type cells rather focusing on prismatic type cell, where the heat dissipation is much more efficient when you are just working with cylindrical type cell. So battery is enclosed with phase change material for a gap of 6 to 5 to 7 mm, and after that you will have an enclosure of around 5 to 7 mm. So each and every cell is allowed to get packed itself with a phase change material for effective heat dissipation part. And extensive research is also running to incorporate nanoparticle along with this phase change material, or introducing and fin structure along with the battery and PCM material, or making use of the metallic foam along with the phase change material for effective heat dissipation part. And in terms of simulation, people are doing extensive work with respect to heat dissipation by incorporating fin structure and PCM. So this is the battery, and this is the PCM phase change material, and this is the fin structure. And it is allowed to get clubbed with the plus type, B type, Y type, and X type. So extensive simulation based work is also allowed to get run with respect to the fin design placement for effective heat dissipation in your lithium-ion batteries. And make a clear note that it talks about the external approach of battery thermal management system. So this talks about the external approach of battery thermal management system. When you are just focusing on internal approach, you need to rely mostly on the electrodes, electrolytes, separators, and various additives. So thereby the heat generated from internally can be effectively treated. So that should be taken into account when you're just discussing about battery thermal management system. I believe now you are having a clear vision about the battery thermal management system. And most often cases, I have followed this particular book and gone through these literatures. And I have also come up with one of the recent review article in the Journal of Clean Air Production related with the battery thermal management system with the secondary cooling system. If you are much more interested, I'm happy to share that review article also along with this research forum. So thereby you can try to understand more about the importance of battery thermal management system with active and passive cooling techniques. And now the session is open to the audience for further queries. And if you have any further queries, you can just ping me through this mail ID or contact number at any point of time. And I will be happy if you want to know more about me. You can just Google me by this name as Dinesh Balasubramanian. And with this, let me just try to conclude the session. And now the session is open for the audience for better interaction.
Yeah, good evening. That was a very nice presentation.
Oh, thank you.
I have one question. Do you have any idea about the lithium iron phosphate batteries? I have heard that it is giving more cycle time compared to that of the lithium ion batteries. So still I am not at all coming across the lithium iron phosphate batteries, and still lithium ion batteries are in use. So then can you throw a light on this?
It does not allowed to get commercialized, but there are extensive research making use of lithium ion phosphate battery. So even
in what aspect it is better compared to this? Only how exactly the cycle time has been improved compared to this?
So the main heat generation, talking about battery, is divided into two. One is based upon internal approach, and second one is external approach. In terms of internal, it talks about the heat generation based upon the lithium and the metal oxide attachment and detachment. So when you are just pulling the lithium from the stable component, either it can be a metal oxide or the iron phosphate based material, the heat that is generated when you are combining lithium and cobalt, and the heat generator that you are combined with the different material get varies. So thereby overall heat production is allowed to get stepped down. So once the heat production is stepped down, what actually happens is you can increase the cycle in the direct percentage. So that is the reason why people are switching over from rather dealing with metal oxide to various materials to increase the life cycle of the battery. I believe I have answered for your question.
Okay, that's good. Another thing, we have shown that the reaction is reversible. When you are explaining that lithium with respect to that of carbon and other parameters in your reaction. So then in spite of that, is it that particular lithium cell, for example, is it be recyclable, or in fact we can regain that one after some days or so, like so in fact?
Now extensive startups are initiated with the recycling lithium ion, but the lithium ion recycle is also a very big tedious process. Because when you just try to place the battery as it is for a long time, then the calendar aging comes into picture. And once the calendar aging comes into picture, even when you're just storing the battery for a prolonged time, it is allowed to get exploded.
Okay.
So even when we are conducting the study, one of the battery has been completely busted. So we can't exactly predict what is because the reason for it. It may be because of the manufacturing defect. So if there is any manufacturing defect in it, it may result in a thermal runaway condition. It may get busted. So it is not that the complete battery pack would get busted. Even one particular cell is get busted, it would create an impact in the remaining cells also.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so thank you.
Hello, sir.
Hello, sir. Good evening, sir.
Hello, sir. Good evening. Okay, sir, in one of your slide, you have considered for 100% melting for PCM. Whether if you are considered for 100% melting in the PCM, whether the PCM will not be spill out from the whatever the reason you have considered. Because
that is the reason. That is the reason why they have allowed to couple the metallic mesh into it. So this is only a baseline study. So just to give a brief idea about it. So they are not only using pure PCM, because once you reach the melting point and cross over to the conversion from solid to liquid, it will lose its stability. So rather losing its stability only, they are allowed to get coupled with a stable structure as like a metallic mesh. So once you introduce a metallic mesh, there is a higher possibility of stability rather using pure PCM. So pure PCM is not used as of now. PCM is coupled with any metallic mesh for better stability, because the temperature cannot be exactly predicted. So once you switch over from the solid to liquid phase, it will lose its stability. So pure PCM is not used as of now in the major cases. I believe I have answered for your question, sir.
Yes. And so one more question I'm having.
Hi, sir.
What would you suggested for which type of PCM, whether will be helpful for battery thermal management, whether organic PCM or inorganic PCM? Because actually
people are working on hybrid cooling as of now. They are not focusing much more on organic or inorganic. They are allowed to trying to couple both organic and inorganic along with active and passive. So hybrid cooling is much more efficient at this particular point of time.
Actually in my PhD, I used for electronic cooling for NECOSYN for thermal management of electronic systems.
Okay, it would be more or less similar to whatever we have discussed as of now.
Yes, that's okay, sir. Thank you. It was a nice presentation. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Dear participants, any more queries, please, you can unmute and ask. Okay, I think with that we will conclude today's session. I would like to thank Dr. Dinesh Balasubramanian sir for engaging this session. It was really informative regarding the battery technology used and its thermal management part. So I hope all the participants have taken valuable lessons in terms of thermal battery management system. So thank you very much, sir. Dinesh, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. I would like to once again express my heartfelt thanks to the management principal head of the institution and particularly the organizer for giving me such an interesting opportunity. And I believe that I didn't bore you much for past 1 hour or above. And thank you very much.
Very interesting.
Thank you.
Very interesting. Yes.
Have a great day.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Yes. So, dear participants, so that we have come to the end of today's session. So tomorrow, let's a little bit more on how to manage stress for faculties. We are managing classes and FDP and examinations. So in that sense, the morning session would be taken care by Namanista Das. So he will give a session about how to manage stress And then we will move on to another interesting application of electric technology, that is in aerospace, that is by Rakesh Shetty. And then finally, we will end tomorrow's session with Mr. Karthik. He will again go in depth into the simulation part of EV components. Okay. Thank you all the participants for being with us today. And it was, I hope it's all the sessions were great and you take valuable lessons today. Thank you all. We will meet tomorrow at 9 o'clock, 9:30, sorry.